today, grab a pen or a pencil, maybe from your pocket or purse, or from the rack that's in front of you. And today we're looking at the high cost of doing business, the story that was just shared a few minutes ago of Jesus and the tenants in the vineyard, dear friends in Christ. How many of you have ever run a business of your own? Maybe it was a store or a service, a cleaning service, or maybe it was just you had a rummage sale or a kid, a paper route. You shoveled snow, mowed lawns, had a lemonade stand. How many of you run a business? Okay, most people do at some point along the way. And, you know, it takes a lot of time to do that. There's a lot of planning. Got to get the word out to people. And as you put all that work into it, like even a garage sale or lemonade stand, you want to make sure that in the end, you get something back for it. You know, there's some reward. You earn something for what all you've done. Last July, right around here, there was a little girl who had a lemonade stand, and she decided to do it for charity. She was doing it for a Lorain County SWAT officer who was shot during the standoff. And wow, that lemonade stand got a great return. She raised $7,500. I imagine people were paying a lot of money for a cup of lemonade because they knew that it would go to help that police officer. It was a worthwhile cause, and there was a great return on the investment. And if you take a class in college on business or in high school, they often talk about ROI, return on investment. And the basic idea is that you want to make more than you're putting in. More, you put in your time, you put in equipment, you put in money, and you want to get a profit, a return on all that you've invested. Well, today's story is a story of a businessman who kind of has a failed business plan. He invests a huge amount and his return is negative. It's very, very little. He's an ag business owner, kind of like a conglomerate of vineyards and farms. This one, he equips. And we heard that in Luke, but in the Gospel of Matthew adds some other details. He says he chose the vines and planted them. That's expensive, isn't it? He built a fence around it, put a hedge, a tower, and a wine press. In other words, he really equipped this business to succeed. He put a lot of investment in it, and then he lets it out to other people to take care of and manage it. And for people back then, you got to understand that their work opportunities were probably only limited to what their parents did before them. And so for this owner to let this land out to other tenants, this was an opportunity of a lifetime. This was huge. And it was common back then for the owner to say, well, you pay me so much, not a percentage, just so much, and everything else you get, that's yours. And so they were really motivated to have a great return on the investment. Huge opportunity. On TV a couple of weeks ago, I'm clicking around and I come to see a show called Garage Rehab. Any of you seen Garage Rehab on TV? Couple of you, all right. And it's not about rebuilding a structure. It's about an auto shop repair. And this guy, he's done well, really well as a mechanic. And so he helps others. He takes his success and other garage owners, they apply and he chooses some and he brings his team in. And they clear out the junk and they bring in new equipment and new suppliers and a new customer base. And a business that was struggling or didn't have the money to upgrade their equipment, now they do. And so he puts this huge investment, this huge influx of talent and money into the business, and they thrive. They take off. It's a rehab. and he gets paid back what he put in, but the business gets to just take off and go. Now, at the beginning, he always calls them together. He says, okay, now if we're going to do this, this is what I want. And he's pretty clear about what's going to be paid back to him. In Jesus' story today, the owner was clear, I'm sure, of what he expected in return. The tenants, when it comes time to give the owner his share, they say, no way. And so the owner sends a man, a servant around to gather the owner's share, and they beat the first one up. And the second man who comes to collect the owner's share, they abuse him and beat him. And the third one, they wound, and he sent him away without anything. Notice the escalating violence. And finally, he says, what am I going to do? I'll send my son. They've got to respect him. And what do with the son? They throw him out and kill him. And they've got some strange thinking that's going on. Why would they do this? Well, their strange thinking is they say, well, let's kill him, because then the inheritance that the owner's going to pass to his son, that'll be ours. Of course, it never would be. But what they're thinking is that, hey, we are going to own this. We get to do with this business whatever we want. We resent having that guy over us. Resent him even asking for his share back. We want to do what we want to do and not give anything to him. Well, back when Jesus told this story, here's a little background information. It's Tuesday of Holy Week, and he's in the temple in Jerusalem. This is a picture of what the temple grounds would have looked like. And he's in one of those open courtyards just a few days before his crucifixion, and standing right in front of him are all the religious leaders, as well as a lot of people. And the week before, a short distance away, Jesus did this miracle. He raised a man named Lazarus back to life. But see, that miracle didn't happen far away in the north, up in Galilee, like all of his other miracles. It didn't happen in a backward place. That miracle happened in Jerusalem. And a lot of the religious leaders, a lot of the people of the city saw it with their own eyes. And they came to believe in Jesus. And they were pretty excited about him when just a few days later, on Palm Sunday, which would be 2 days before Jesus told this parable, Jesus came into Jerusalem, and the people were excited, and they're cheering him, and the religious leaders are ticked off. Why? Because it looks like a riot. People are having this parade for Jesus, and the Romans are over them, and the Romans don't care about their Jewish religious squabbles. They only care about there being peace and them getting their taxes. And the Romans are going to see this, the religious leaders fear, as a riot, and they'll crack down. And if they crack down, then the religious leaders aren't going to get their income, their share of the take. You see, this is Passover. And a town of 50,000 is swollen to about 250,000 people. They come to Jerusalem to sacrifice and to give offerings up in that temple. And the high priest and the religious aristocracy, they're getting a share off of all of that. They're making big money. This is the biggest week of tourism of the whole year. And so they don't want anything to disrupt that. This is a major money stream for them. This weekend, did you see in the news, the Rock Hall of Fame is having their induction for the 2019 class, okay? Big deal. And I was looking and I saw that when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was built downtown, that the city put in money to make sure that it would be there, and to help it get going, they put in $65 million to build that Hall of Fame. It seems like a lot. That's a lot of money. Well, it seems like it sure is to me. But do you know what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame brings into the Cleveland area every year in tourism money? $199 million. Wow. Okay? So that's important, isn't it? That's a huge economic boost for our area. We want to keep that going, don't we? And the same is happening with Jesus and the religious leaders. They want to keep all this going, and here comes Jesus. And the Monday, the day before he told us, he went into the temple, and there's all of these selling pigeons and changing money, and he clears them all out so that it can be a place where people hear God's word and they can pray. The religious leaders are ticked off about that. Well, why are they ticked off? What did that parable mean? Back when Jesus told it to the people standing right in front of him, well, the owner, of course, they understood clearly that the owner would be God. And the vineyard, that's their nation. That's their country, the nation of Israel. And the fence and the tower and the opportunity, these gifts of grace, this heavy investment by the owner, for them would be their land. And the promise of the Messiah, they knew that they were slaves in Egypt, and God chose them and brought them out and gave them a land and gave them a future. And he really invested in them. And these servants who come to collect, well, God had sent prophets in the past to remind people to worship God alone. But they beat them and killed them. And finally, standing right in front of them this day is the Son. What will they do with the Son, the heir? The tenants, they're the priests, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious leaders of the day. And the big question here is, what's the fruit? What are they going to give to God? What is God asking of them? What does he desire from them? You see, they were very familiar with a very similar story that was written in the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament, a story about a vineyard given by God to the people of Israel. And in that story from Isaiah, the vineyard owner is God, and it was told to remind the people and warn the people, return back to him. It was told 700 years earlier in a time when people were turning away from God. They were worshiping idols. And God was saying, come back to me or else there will be judgment. And they ignored the warning. And there was judgment. The city was destroyed. Most of the people were lost forever. And only a small group was ever able to come back. But out of that group that came back, they promised that they are not going to make the same mistake that their ancestors made. That they would worship God, that they would never forget God, that they would have a wonderful, thriving lifestyle all about God, and that they did. And that's what was happening right before Jesus' eyes. They offered sacrifices. The temple that they built was a beautiful, glorious building. They set up a way of life that centered on God, even in the food that they ate and the way that they dressed and the holidays and the things that they celebrated. It was really amazing, this strong, close, religious life. And so it sounds like the religious leaders of that day, Jesus' day, they had a great vineyard going. Orderly, productive, fine religious organization. So why would they be upset when Jesus tells this parable? What's so wrong that they're just seething? What's the fruit that God the owner is asking for? Let's let that question hang. And let's ask, what about us today? Let's bring this story to you and me. Today, the owner is still God. And the vineyard is his people today, not Israel, but the church, us, you and I. And the fence and the tower and the opportunity, the heavy investment, the grace that's given, is we have forgiveness because of Jesus. He gave his son. We have hope. We have heaven. completely undeserved. And the servants, I put prophets there. I didn't mean that. That's a mistake. The servants are people who've taught and led you closer to God. Pastors, parents for many of us, teachers, maybe mentors, camp counselors who led us closer in our relationship to God. We're the tenants, and the question is, what's the fruit? What does God ask of us? And we can say, well, that would be a life where we go to church, where our friends are Christians, where we serve in the church at the functions that go on. And that sounds great, to have a thriving religious organization. And as I thought about that, it reminded me of my first church. When I was growing up, it was called Mount Calvary. There's a picture of it. And I was there in the 1960s. I was baptized there, went to school there. There were 2 pastors at the time, full school choirs. I'd see aunts and uncles at church on Sunday morning. It was great. I went to school there, and they had school buses that would drop me off at home, and the janitors drove the school buses. I thought Mr. Brown and Mr. Sundstrom were the coolest guys in the world because they drove the school bus. Man, it was a well-run religious life. And we can, even today, long for those days where it's thriving, but the same church today has very few people because people aren't interested in that thriving religious life so much. They aren't interested in the culture. They're looking for what's underneath, the fruit that's deeper. And for us at St. Paul, sorry this is a grainy picture, but that is Palm Sunday in the mid-1970s. You can see the palms up by the altar there. The church is full of people. In those days, in the 1960s and 70s, St. Paul was packed with people. Sunday school had 2 classes for every grade. Record numbers of kids getting confirmed every year. And then what happened was that the businesses, the factories around here shuttered and people moved. And we can long for those days. We can think, well, that's what we want. That's what God wants. That's what He desires from us. The church is a well-run, thriving vineyard of an organization. What did God want from Israel? What was the fruit? Well, they've been blessed extravagantly. But you see, the tenants, they weren't thankful for that gift. They weren't grateful. And that was the problem. The problem was how in their heart they felt about God. And for us today here at St. Paul, God's given to us extravagantly, invested in you, forgiveness through His Son Jesus. He gives you hope for whatever problem you face in your life. He gives you the meaning of knowing that there's heaven to come, and the best is waiting for you. And what's God ask in response? Going to church, praying, serving? What He wants is your heart. Thankfulness. Like the Psalm says, I will praise you, O God, O Lord, with all my heart. Hear the gratitude. I will tell of your wonders. I will be glad and rejoice in you. I'll sing praises to your name, O Lord Most High. He wants your thankfulness and your love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. To love Him, to want Him, to be with Him, to be thankful for all that He's given. And so for us, our response to Jesus in our heart, it really depends on where you are in your spiritual walk. It could be that maybe you're against God right now, and the first thing God wants in your heart is turn away and come to Him, repent. Maybe what God's asking of you today is that you believe in Him, that you see that Jesus is for real, and He is for you, and He's given His life for you. Maybe God's calling you now, follow Him. in your life? Walk with him. Or love him even deeper. Do you love him? Next, if you love him, you'll obey him. Will you do what he asks and live for him? Let him be the center of your life. And finally, will you be like Paul in the reading a few moments ago where he says, I gave up everything because I want to go and I want to mentor others. I want to teach others about God. And I sacrifice everything for him. See, all of us, we can see ourselves somewhere along this line, can't we? Where are you? What's the next step God's asking of you today? See, here's the question. The question is, how joyfully do you give to the owner what he rightly asks of you? How joyfully? Like the tenants in this story, we often don't respond freely, willingly, joyfully, in gratitude for all that God's done. We kind of see God often as this unwelcome intrusion, as this burden, because we'd rather run our own lives, take over as the owners. Bob McEwen, he tells this really cute story of a day when he took his young son and they went to McDonald's and he was at their soccer game, and his son gets a Happy Meal. He buys him a Happy Meal, sits down at the table, and while he's eating, he's just sitting there talking, and he reaches over and takes one of the French fries and takes a bite, and his son says, "Hey, that's mine. You can't have any." And at that moment, Bob McEwen says, several thoughts went through my mind. First was, he doesn't recognize where that French fry came from. I am the one who bought those. I am the great giver of French fries in the sky to him. Okay? He says, secondly, he doesn't realize that I have power to take all those French fries away if I want. I can take them away from him and he'll have none. Third, he doesn't realize that I also have the power, and I could go up to that window and I could put down $100 and say to the people there, I want you to bury my son in French fries. Give him more than he can ever handle. So, but most importantly, number 4, he doesn't realize that I really don't want a French fry. What I really want is just to be here with him and for him to be willing to share them so that we can be together and have a conversation. Isn't that what God wants from us? He wants our gratitude, your gratitude. He wants your love. That's the fruit that he seeks. And so the reason to give the owner his due is gratitude and love in response to his extravagant grace. As Jesus spoke, he is the Son who will be cast out and be killed on the cross, on the hill called Calvary, to give his life for you and me. And we are soon, within 2 weeks, we will be reliving that and following Jesus through that progression from Palm Sunday to Good Friday to the resurrection on Easter. And as we relive that, we remember what he's done for us with gratitude, the extravagant grace. And so my question to you is, will you love him back? Give him your heart? Here's some questions that will help you, and I give these to you to do some reflection this week on this parable because it is so deep and so rich. And to ask yourself and actually take your pen or pencil and journal or write some answers here. How grateful am I to God for his gifts? How grateful? Is God a demanding intrusion? Or do I love him? Do some soul searching. What's my next step to grow in the gratitude and love? Where's God calling me? What fruit am I returning to God now? And what does he desire from me? And will giving that deepen my love and trust? Because if I'm just giving something and I'm not growing in love and trust, when and how am I going to start to give it? And Do I read at home? Do we speak to others about that essential heart of the faith that God has for our hearts, our lives? Do we talk about Jesus that way? And what can we do to grow in that? God bless you as you do. I invite you now to join with me as we proclaim our faith. Let's stand for our statement of faith. Together we speak, I believe in a great God who created the world in power and love, and whose character is reflected in all of creation. I believe in Jesus Christ, Son of God and Son of Man, his life, his teachings, his miracles, his death, and his resurrection, combined to provide true forgiveness of sin and life for all eternity. His strength bolsters my weakness. His love covers my failures, and his sacrifice forgives my sin. I trust him as a friend and brother, a Savior and Lord. I believe in the Holy Spirit, God at work in and among us. I believe that God is present and active in today's world, and that I can know some of the joy of heaven right now. I believe that the Church of Christ is the people of God, and that in prayer, the sacraments, and the fellowship of the church, we can experience true meaning and everlasting love in our lives. We pray, God, be with us. We ask you to let us be good tenants because we love you, and you've given so much. Fill us with great gratitude. Bless us in our church with vision, with a desire to grow deeper and to share you with other people, that others may come to know you and to love you too. Be with people who are sick, God. There are many on our minds and in our hearts, especially Edna Cleanse and Margaret Europe, Marty Offner, Steve Albright, and Luella, and Diane, and Jim, and Cindy, and Don. Richard, who's moving to the nursing care, and Connor, who's 3 years old and has cancer. God, we pray for health, for healing, that you reassure them that you're with them and you love them, and that they can love you too, love you back. God, be with Sandy Bingley's family as they mourn the death of an aunt, and comfort them, give them the hope that they need to carry them through, hope that's given by your extravagant love through Jesus. These things and others in our hearts and our minds we bring to you, we pray, as Jesus invited us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever.